3 shots, 4 par, I just do 2. 1 putt, par 4, birdie, woohoo. New driver, info, replace, M2, par 5, fairway, what you fin do? Think I'll try to get on into. Start right, good line, good view. It drew, shooter McGavin, 2 thumbs that's up high and 2 fingers.
This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Swannies. Clear your closet and get ready to upgrade your fall golf wardrobe over at swannies.co using the promo code SCREWS25. At swannies.co using the promo code SCREWS25. Celebrate pars. Who Katie Calderon is. Hopefully we got that pronunciation right.
Yeah, you got it right. So, no worries. So basically, I've been playing golf my whole life. I started playing when I was 4 years old, fell into it completely on accident. We were on vacation, and my mom, I think she was pregnant with my little brother at the time, and she needed to go take a nap. And my dad needed to find something to do with me, and the hotel we were staying at had free golf lessons. So we went to one of those, and I was immediately hooked, obsessed with the game. I didn't want to put a club down. The second we got back, I was asking to go back on vacation so I could play golf. And my dad had explained to me, like, no, you can do that here. And so that's kind of how I entered the game. And played competitively pretty much my entire life. I played, middle school, high school, wanted to play in college, but ended up deciding to go pro on the long drive for a little bit. So I did that for a couple years during the pandemic, and then I go to college now for engineering because when I was in high school, I was playing, but I also worked in a golf shop. And so I learned how to repair clubs, fit clubs, and things like that. And I knew that was what I wanted to stay in when I ended up going to college. So I was like, oh, I got really into how you repair golf clubs and how you fit golf clubs. And I was like, I want to be the person on the back end making the clubs. So I learned that you had to get an engineering degree for that. So that's what I'm doing now. And I've, started my own company making golf clubs, which is crazy.
Perfect match.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
Well, last week we had Jake Morrow. So I don't know if you know Jake, but he's with Made for the Range. So he kind of is, it's sort of interesting. So he's like a club geek, like an absolute club nerd. And his is more about I guess, educating us as students on the game of golf and what the golf club does. Bryce, jump in. You talk to Jake all the time, but like more or less like what the different clubs do, the ball, everything like that, like whatever's in your bag and how it'll work for you. Not like brand specific whatsoever. And that's kind of how he's building that whole model, which is kind of cool. So then that's awesome. Yeah. It's neat to then talk with somebody who's kind of on the other end with where you're not just building the clubs, you're actually like engineering them, right? So
yeah.
So he essentially is like a free fitter essentially without being fit. Like he tells you all like what lie angle means, what flex point in different shafts means, what shaft taper, all that kind of stuff, and gives that knowledge to the public where most of the time people will have to go to a fitter to get that
to find out
what's right for them. That's essentially his gig there, which is awesome. I think it's fantastic.
So you mentioned like the engineering, Katie. So TAMU, is that right? TAMU? I read that earlier.
Texas A&M. Yeah.
Texas A&M University student, engineer student. So are you still in school right now?
Yeah. So I just finished up. I literally had a final yesterday. So I finished up the semester yesterday. I've got a little bit more time, but school has really fostered an environment for me where I can go to school and start my business. It's incredible. I participate in a couple different student incubator programs. So it gives you access to people in industry and then people who have started their own companies and sold them. And then they do a whole bunch of different university competitions for funding and stuff. So I've won quite a few of our university competitions now, which has gotten me the funding I needed to actually start production. So we're full-blown player testing phase. I think today the player test I was at right before this kind of confirmed that I'm moving out of the R&D side into more of, okay, let's prep this for manufacturing, which is
exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting. It's incredible. It's been probably about a year and a half of working on it to like go, but I've had the idea forever. So it's kind of just what I'm working on is like a culmination of my entire life, which feels weird to say like 23, but it's just awesome.
No, it sounds like if it's something that you knew you wanted to get into and now you're finding the way. Like in my professional life away from this, like I write grants all the time at work. So it's kind of cool how you see those things become successful, and then you can kind of put those into what you're trying to do, which is really cool. And that's how you're kind of, it sounds like that's how you're getting your funding to be able to build them, right? So
Yeah.
is it just the putters right now that you're doing?
Yeah, so right now I'm kind of more focused on putters because that's where I started and that's kind of where club design started for me. So like 2 or 3 years ago now, I was in a class and we're in just like your first engineering class ever. And my professor, they go around the room and they ask, okay, well, why do you want to be an engineer? Why do you want to be an engineer? And people are saying, oh, I want to, work for, big software companies, or I want to work in tech, I want to do whatever. And my answer was so out of left field for my professor. I was just like, oh, I want to build golf clubs. And my professor kind of looked at me and she was like, you should, that seems like something you could, like, you should just try it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was like, okay. So I had a small TikTok following at the time. I think I only had like 10,000 followers maybe, that I had gained over that summer building a golf club table and just posting little golf videos talking about my life experience and stuff in golf. And I ended up posting a video of me, hey, this is me trying to build a putter. And at the time, I only had a 3D printer, so I was just 3D printing a putter, and it blew up. And from there, I started doing a whole bunch of different designs, and I was teaching myself how to design putters just by, looking at how other things are designed in my golf shop and taking measurements off of clubs that way to see, like, okay, like these are the rules. And then I read the USGA handbook front and back to see, okay, can I make a USGA regulation putter out of 3D printed parts, and ended up doing that and kind of put the whole journey on TikTok and blew up from there.
Yeah, it came across my For You page, so it definitely blew
Did
up.
it? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. Sorry, I'm plugging my phone back in. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy journey just getting to that. And then from there I was like, well, now I know how to make putters. And I did a little bit of time in industry doing a bunch of different internships in putter R&D. And from there, I really learned how the industry made putters and how it was a little bit different than I was approaching it. And I'd always had this idea for the club that I'm making now, and making equipment for women, because as a kid, I always struggled with finding clubs. And even to this day, like I have to spend a few $100s more to get my clubs to work for me. So I wanted to kind of make and I starting with putters because that's what I know how to build and where my last few years have been in, and kind of designed a putter around that thinking.
So sorry, I have a lot of questions here.
No, you're good. Please,
really,
yeah.
So the materials, when you're first 3D printing, what materials are you using?
So just basic 3D
film,
printing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like filament. Yeah. I'm buying
you were
$20
rolling
rolls
putts
off
with
of
the
Amazon.
3D film.
Yeah.
Too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I could roll some putts with that. I was playing rounds with that for like a year because
That's
I
awesome.
thought it felt cool, and it looked cool, and people loved it. Every time I went out somewhere, everyone wanted to try it. I was like, yeah, please.
Yeah. Like what would it
go
be?
ahead and
What
give
would
it
it
a
be
feel.
similar to? Nothing, I guess,
Kind of
right?
like a nothing. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, imagine if an entire putter was made of a face insert.
Mm,
And that's
Okay.
pretty much what it was, but a little bit different because I'm using very cheap plastic material. I think probably in total, shaft, grip, everything, it cost me under $30 to make that
yeah,
entire
I'm
putter.
surprised it held up so well, honestly. But
Yeah, I still play with it. It's still in my bag today. Like I bring it
Cool.
around with me, and sometimes I'll hit a 5-footer with it. But yeah, it still holds up.
that's great.
That's amazing. It's just, I don't know, to be able to kind of print something, glue it together, and bring it out there that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's
Do you get around Texas very much? We've got a friend down there in Texas at Texas Tech. She plays on the women's
awesome.
golf team. Maybe we got to connect the two of you. Her name's Lauren Zaretsky.
for sure.
She's the
Yeah, I'd love to have her test my stuff.
Yeah, she's the Canadian national amateur champion here, like junior amateur
Oh, wow.
or Canadian am champ. Yeah, and she played in the Canadian Open last year, her first LPGA event. Had a hole in one in that event too. So hats off to Lauren. That's pretty
Good
amazing.
for her.
Hole in one her very first ever LPGA round, which was kind of cool. So she'd
That's
be
a
a great
life goal.
she'd be
That's awesome.
oh yeah, she'd be a great one to have roll it, and maybe she wouldn't be too far from you. I'm pretty sure she's Texas Tech.
Yeah, she's out in Texas. So she's probably like 6 hour drive, but I have a bunch of friends that I know that go up and back, so I could probably hop out there.
I forget it's like up here in Canada, everything's so far away. But
Yeah, like an hour.
Texas is the same way. It's kind of big too. But like here people are like, oh, like do you ever go play Cabot? And I'm like, Cabot's like 18 hours away from me here.
Yeah.
It's not that close at all. But that's really cool. Like to be able to actually kind of roll them. So where are we at now with the production of the putter?
So right now it's like the putter that I'm making now is not 3D printed at all. I went more of a let me manufacture it like the real guys do. Let me make it a putter that is unique and different and gonna be what I like to think of is game changing with the technology that I've come up for it. So it's right now right at the end of the R&D phase. It's really like we're going full blown player test. So like I posted something earlier this week, it was yesterday or a couple days ago, saying like, hey, like I need player testers. Like I want you to try it out so that I can get real people feedback because the club is so based on, I it can feel amazing to me and I think it's the greatest thing in the world. But I want to know what everyone thinks of it, and I want to make sure I adjust it so that it feels good for every single person.
Mac here for Manscaped, the best in men's grooming. We are back with a limited time offer on the Performance Package 4.0. If you're not watching this on YouTube or on Instagram or somewhere that we have this video posted, you should go look because I'm going to show you everything in each one of these lineups. The Performance Package 4.0 comes with the Crop Reviver, the Crop Preserver, the Weed Whacker for the nose. This thing would take down Eugene Levy, and the Lawnmower 4.0. We scroll down to the Platinum Package. It includes the Crop Preserver that we already talked about. You can't see it in the screen. Over there is a Crop Reviver, the body wash, shampoo, and conditioner, plus the deodorant, said Weed Whacker, said Lawnmower 4.0. And on top of that, you're going to get free boxers, my favorite pair of all 3 pairs that I own, my favorite toiletry bag of 2 toiletry bags that I own, free shipping plus 20% off using the promo code OTSGolf over at manscaped.com or manscaped.ca. The best in men's grooming. Let's get to the back nine. We'll see you there.
So that's kind of what we're in, is just the minor tweak phase and having people try it and see how they like it.
I think you had a link posted yesterday too, so maybe I'll grab that.
Yeah,
I can even drop
it.
Yeah,
I can shoot that to you. Yeah,
I can throw it in the show notes here, so anybody who might be interested in checking it out. So, are you looking for people like locally? Are you shipping them out if people are interested? Are you sending heads out? How does that work for you, Katie?
So, trying to figure it out right now. I've got one sample coming in the next week, and if that's okay, I'm gonna get the go ahead on getting a bunch of different samples. That way, I can have it in a bunch of different heights. And then looking to do like 2 rounds, like a local round of testing, and then a round where I'm shipping it out to people, having them film it, having them go a certain way about the test, and then shoot me back the putter and the footage. And then, talk, and if they love it, like, you can't buy that one because it's a prototype, but it'll be out, and, I'm hoping to put it out end of 2024.
See, that's where I am. I'm like all about the prototypes, though. I'd be wanting to kind of twist your leg, try and buy a prototype or something like that. I think that'd be really cool.
No, totally. Yeah. If I could afford to, I would totally be letting people keep these prototypes. Like every time I've given one to someone to try out, they've not wanted to give it back. So I know it's definitely going to be.
That's a good thing, though. That's what you want.
Yeah, no, it's a great thing. Yeah.
You want to fight for it back. Yeah.
Exactly.
Was there any like mold that you were kind of building the putter off of? Like, what did you roll before? Did that give you like any inspiration with the model that you went with, or are you looking to do multiple different ones? Like I know you 3D printed it, so you had pretty much you could build whatever you wanted, I guess. But is there anything that you're trying to kind of model it after, or was it a feel that you felt like you were missing and that's why you built it?
Yeah, I think the way I went into my putter is kind of 2 major influences. One was being my experience in golf and my life in golf and my life as a fitter. Those were the 2 main things, because me playing golf, I mean, I loved the game. I wanted to be as good as I could. If I wasn't doing homework, I was out on the golf course. And as I got older and as I grew up, it got really hard for me to get clubs that worked for me. I was 12, I think, when I got my first women's set. And I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, I'm out of kids clubs. I'm an adult. I can play with women's clubs. And by the time I hit 13, literally less than a year, I couldn't play with the clubs that I had anymore. I had to move into men's clubs, and I had to get super customized, because I'm like 13, I'm like, 5'6", 5'5", like I'm not men's standard height clubs, so now I'm having to pay to get different shafts in them. I'm having to have the shafts cut down. I'm having to have them rebalanced. And so my experience having to do that every couple years just to be able to play clubs, and even to this day, if I wanted to go into a store, I could not walk out with clubs. That was my major influence for coming up with my design. And the second was my experience as a fitter, because when I was, fitting clubs, you see so many different people every day with so many different swings. And when, I was always pretty much the only woman in fitting at every store that I worked in fitting. And when I would, most women would come to me for a fit. And when I would try and fit women, I don't think I ever had a woman leave the store with a set that she could just grab off the rack.
Mm-hmm.
It always had to be kind of a custom thing. And so in my mind, I was like, there are common themes here. Let me come up with something that fixes this.
Yeah, well, I know it's really early stages, especially just with having a putter. But in the future, if everything goes well, are you looking to get into irons? And like, is that in the realm of possibility here?
100%. I want to have a full blown line. I want to be, life goal to be one of the top 5, one of the big guys doing all the sales and kind of dominating, especially women's clubs. And like that's the dream. That's the goal. And I want to start with putters, and then once the putters, take off, I can use the funding from the putters to then kickstart irons, driver, wedges, all of it.
Well, I think it's good too, because I don't think, I mean, I know the big brands have their women's sets and all that, but I mean, there's nothing really geared fully towards women's golf clubs. I mean, TaylorMade has their box sets and Callaway has their box sets for women, but nothing like you said, that custom fit specifically for women. I can't recall their company that strictly does that, which is cool.
Yeah, there's not right now. We're the only ones who are designing specifically for women. There's no other company that has like their, is a women's company or does a specific women's line. So it's really cool to be entering this new area. And with talking with women, I do customer interviews all the time. I talk to different ladies who have struggled with equipment or love their equipment, but wish there were minor tweaks. And there are so many common themes from all the different women that I've talked to that really drove me making the putter that I made, because the original putter that I had in my head is so different from what I ended up making just from talking to all these ladies, but it still fits the common themes that I had in my life and that they've had in their life in golf.
Well, I think too, like the variance between a putter is probably even far less than what a wedge would be than an iron. Long iron,
100%.
driving iron, hybrid to a driver, right? Because like I can think of like the TaylorMade Callaway sets and stuff like that, the box sets, like you mentioned, Bryce. But like I remember back in the day, I thought it was so cool because I gamed the same irons as Annika Sorenstam. Like I loved Annika Sorenstam; she was the best, and it was the Callaway X Tours, and they weren't built for women. Like so, there would be a lot of problems with young female golfers kind of growing up, looking up to Annika Sorenstam, and probably not being able to hit the same clubs, right? So I kind of love that that's like a passion of yours or something that you're trying to build. There's definitely a space for it, because on a much different scale, don't get me wrong, like this is a whole different conversation, but like I'm a lefty, so like it's hard enough as a lefty to get clubs, but then when you so much further removed is like the female space of trying to get golf clubs, and especially ones that fit. And then as you get older, you're swinging faster. Maybe you're not as tall. Like Bryce is like 6'15". He's so tall, right? And him and I, like we don't even hit the same clubs, right? So it's I think it's a space that is untapped, which is really, really special. I think that you're onto something really special, Katie. That's so cool. I think that a lot of people would be really interested in it just for the fact that it's like clubs that are kind of being built for them, right? For you. So which is cool. I love that. I wanted to ask, so like when you talked about social media and stuff, you've been on it since like for a few years. You said, I think it was 2021 that it kind of blew up, like at the start of COVID, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I think it was right around 2021 that my page started to really take off. And it was a lot of, talking about my club designs, but then also talking about equipment. Because, kind of similarly to your buddy, I worked as a fitter forever, and I understood that most people don't understand what they have in their bag and if it's actually playing for them. And so I, started explaining it a little bit more, and especially got into explaining it with golf balls, because that's kind of, the easiest part of your game to change, I think, is what ball you're playing with.
Thing.
100%. It can definitely be one of the most important things. I mean, your ball is the only thing that doesn't change throughout the round. I mean, unless you lose it, but you're hitting every shot with the same ball. So it's important to be playing that because, you could have a super high swing speed and be playing with a super soft ball, and all of a sudden you change balls, you're going to be hitting, 10, 20, 30 yards further. And so for me, it was really easy to kind of start with explaining that. And, I'm hoping to move into more talking about equipment again because I explained equipment for a while, made my own stuff, and now I'd love to explain it a little bit more again to people.
Well,
I know you've kind of just touched on that a little bit, but how much did that help you in actually building clubs, having that knowledge in your background and kind of knowing what needs to be done to build a golf club?
I think that is probably the biggest influence on like me being able to do what I'm doing now is understanding how equipment is done from being a player, being a fitter, all of it, and then having worked in design before, like to be able to understand like each part of the process to get it from an idea in someone's mind to something in your hand and having a little bit of experience in each area is probably the biggest help to me when it came to starting my own.
Well, yeah, it's cool. You almost have it all. You're a player, you're a fitter, and engineering now too. It's almost the three keys to building clubs. It's cool.
Yeah, it's awesome.
well, it's important too, like you said, like you have an idea because there's so many brands where the engineer might not really understand what's happening with the club, right? Like I haven't seen it firsthand, but I've heard like Ping does a really good job with that because like their engineering team is all kind of like in one house and they're like really well connected with their players and but I think as a big brand gets bigger and they can afford to pay an engineer or an engineering team, it might lose connection with like the actual golfer and what's working for kind of the masses, right? But maybe not. We're seeing so much changes in golf clubs right now. It's hard to say, right? Like it's really hard to say. And then there's changes so constantly. And like we've been lucky enough to talk with like a couple smaller like direct to consumers. Like Joshua Haywood comes to mind, and he says like one of the things he said is like things don't change in the golf world that much. Like they don't change as much as you don't need a new release every year. And like obviously Haywood's doing incredible stuff too, right? So it's kind of neat to have somebody, and he's a player. He's got a player background. He fits clubs as well. He has a bit more, idea. He's not an engineer, but he has some idea with how they're built and how they're like machined and all of that kind of stuff too, right? I think you want that connection, and that made me like that's why I have them in the bag. That kind of made me have that kind of connection. I wanted to give them a shot, right? So, I wanted to talk to you because I get like I'm not the only one, but I get into like the deep rabbit hole of like the videos that you post with the ball cutting and the ball testing, right?
Yeah.
So what got you started with that? Like what made you want to start testing the balls?
Honestly, I had been playing the wrong ball my whole life. When I played golf all through high school, no joke, probably until senior year. You asked anybody what ball I played, it was a Nike Mojo. I gamed those Nike Mojos every single round. When Golfsmith went out of business, I was like 14, 15. I made my dad drive me to the Golfsmith and I bought them out of Nike Mojos. I think we came home with hella. And I was like, okay, yeah, like I'm set for through high school and I was and I played them forever. I started running out middle of junior year and my coach found couple boxes that he had in his like garage, gave those to me and I finished out through junior year. But like that is like now like in comparison at that time, I mean those balls were a few years out of date. It is a terrible ball in comparison. Like you get 24 for $20. Like I was not playing a ball that would have helped me play well at all. And once I started working at the golf shop and you tell the reps like, oh yeah, I play Nike Mojos, they
Oops.
look at you like you're
Yeah.
insane. Yeah, they're like, well, you don't play golf. Like you don't play golf. And I was a competitive player, and I was always number one on my team, and I was out there playing with a Nike Mojo, and all my teammates have Pro V1s. I think TP5s had just come out at that time. A lot of people were playing TP5s, like great balls, and I'm over there with a Nike Mojo, and it took our Titleist rep giving me an AVX for me to realize, whoa, I've not been playing with the right ball at all. Because when I got up there with the AVX, and I've always driven the ball far, and you're 20 yards further, I'm like, okay, I need to start looking at what I'm doing with the golf balls. And so I did a lot of personal research, ended up with the TP5, was playing that my senior year. Uh, this is kind of the ball I played for a while. I, bounced around. I love the vice balls. I love the TP5. I I do like the Pro V1 sometimes, depends on where I'm playing, I think. But for me, it was really like, okay, now I kind of understand what each ball does. And when I started working at a different golf shop in college, they taught you how to do ball fittings, which was something I had never heard of. And so when I was doing ball fittings, then they really jam down your throat exactly what each ball does. And I realized nobody knows this unless you go get a ball fitting or unless you're, a super golf nerd. And that's kind of when I was like, okay, it's time for me to share this information.
So, what led you to want to cut it open? Like, I feel like I kind of know the answer. It seems like you're a pretty curious mind, but like, what led you to kind of want to start cutting them open and going through the golf ball?
Well, you can hear, oh yeah, this golf ball is a 2-layer ball, it does whatever. This golf ball is a 3-layer ball, it does whatever. This golf ball is a 4-layer ball, it does whatever. And at this time, I'm right in the beginning of my engineering career. And for a hot minute there, I was a materials engineer. Now I'm manufacturing and mechanical. But during the hot minute I was a materials engineer, you learn about all of the components of a
Yeah,
golf ball.
what they
I'd be in
do.
class.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be in class. We'd be talking about Surlyn. We'd be talking about urethane. We'd be talking about the different kinds of rubbers. And I'm like, I need to hang on a minute. Like I know exactly what we're talking about. And you see that on the back of the box, but you don't really know what that looks like until you actually see it. And so they're like, okay, it's 4 layers. I want to double check that. So you cut it open, and then you can actually see exactly how it's done, which was really cool.
Now you've like it kind of grew into also not just kind of checking out like for your own knowledge, but obviously you were building like Instagram reels and TikToks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you've cut open like a couple like really old ones and stuff too. So did it
Yeah.
become like a curiosity thing at some point where you just like kind of curious to see how many you could cut open and what all the different balls would look like?
Totally. It actually came from people talking to me about balls that they played when they were a kid, or balls that they had around their house, stuff like that. And so someone told me, I think the really old one, the rubber band golf balls, like the Balata. I did not believe the commenters telling me that there were golf balls made of rubber bands, because that was before I was born, and I was like, there's no way. I was like, there's no way. And so, I happened to stumble upon a bag of really old balls at a Goodwill. And I was like, okay, like everyone has been commenting about these, there was a Balata ball, there was a couple old ones, and then some people were talking about Greg Norman balls, like a whole bunch of balls that I had never heard of because they were, before my time in the golf industry. And so when I saw this bag, I was like, okay, like I want to understand what these people are talking about. So I started cutting those open too.
Yeah.
What a difference too, from back then to now. It's just see how far they've come. It's just insane.
It's crazy. I mean, to think it's only 40, 60 years from that, it's crazy.
Yeah. That was one of the first ones that grabbed my mind. I was just trying to go back to look for it. I think it was like an old Top Flight or something like that and it had like a number on the ball. I can't remember where it was. I was just trying to grab your reel here, but I think it was 48 years old or something like that. It was
it had the 79 tag on the Top Flight, because I mean Top Flight's been around forever. And so like when I get these old balls, I try and figure out like, okay, well, this is really cool. Like it's very clearly a very old ball, but like how old is it and what is it? Because going into it, like I'm going to cut it open, I'm going to be curious about it, but when I talk about it in a video, I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about. And so I do a whole bunch of research prior to even putting out the video, because, my own curiosity, and then I want to be able to explain it as well as I can. So like with that one, all golf balls pretty much have different markers on them that you can use to tell when that golf ball's from. And I think Titleist is the best example. With the Pro V1, the alignment line changes every new edition. Mm-hmm. And all the golf balls have, either sometimes it's the logo has changed, or the alignment line has changed, or there's something little about it, or they'll do indentations for like their own SKUs. And that's how you can tell what golf ball it is and when it's from. And so I always look for kind of markers like that, and then throw those into the search with it to find out exactly when it's from.
I always always curious about that too. Like when you see like a little letter on it, what it might mean, and
Yeah.
I've never kind of like looked into it. But the other one I just found it, the one that exploded. You're like cutting it in like the backyard or something like that. So has there ever been like a ball that you like have heard about and you had to like go on a search? I remember Rick Shields looking for like, Bryce, you ever seen this video where Rick Shields looked for like 100-year golf ball or something like that and then played around with it?
I've seen it. I can't remember what he ended up stumbling upon, but
was there ever anyone that you wanted to like find, Katie, to test it out?
For me, it was definitely the rubber band ball, and I'm still kind of looking for. I mean, it's a newer ball, but those Atomax golf balls are definitely on my list.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Mike. I'll reach out to Mikey and see if we can get one of those because they just tested those on the channel a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and they claim to be the longest ball, right, in golf?
Yeah, they're claiming to be the longest, and it's the material that they're saying that's in it, it's like a liquid metal or something. So I did a lot of research on that when I was doing when we started design clubs, and when I was a materials engineer. I mean, we had a whole 2 months of class pretty much designated to that, and so that's one that I've been very on the hunt to check out because I know so much about it, and I have thought about putting it in golf clubs. So to see someone do it in golf balls, I'm like, oh, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and check out. I watched a couple minutes of that video, and it's like the claim is that it's the longest ball on the planet right now. I don't know if it's conforming or not. I don't know if it's usable, but I think it's also super expensive too, isn't it? Like
it's like $250. So like,
yeah,
for a dozen. And I was like, maybe that's on my Christmas wish list, but maybe not because it's $250 a dozen. But the way the technology works and the material specifically that they're putting in it to make the claim that it's the longest, that price kind of seems cheap, honestly, for the liquid metal that they're putting in there, because that's like that tech is way still like beyond anything in golf right now.
All right, well, we'll reach out to Mikey and see if we can find
it.
Maybe we can get one and ship it down to you or something like that. Maybe
that would be awesome.
I'm sure they're locked in the vault at Club Champion Canada up here somewhere. But
I'm pulling this video up. I want to look at it.
Yeah, it's definitely like a cool one because I think they actually they hit pretty well. Like I think Ian was testing it and he thought it was pretty good. But I grabbed the ball out of curiosity. Now I'm kind of nerding out. I know you don't have a ton of time, but like so this one says Z or Z 0. Would you like have an idea like what they mean, or are they all just like based on what model the ball came out? So this is a Titleist Pro V1. Is it something
for the Titleist Pro V1, that Z0 might be like batch number, but if you look at the alignment line on that one, depending on what the look of the alignment line is, that'll tell you the year.
Okay. Yeah, I know they all kind of change a little bit and stuff too, but
yeah.
So it just sort of, that number on there is like the batch number if anybody's interested. Okay. That's kind of good. That's
pretty much. That number is like the batch number. Sometimes they'll have like another marking number to tell you the year number. You just have to do a bunch of research into how each company does it. And then from there, it's smooth sailing.
I'm sure they do that to like back themselves. Like if something ever went wrong in a batch and they had to do like a recall or something, they'd be like, if you
exactly
whatever, send it back. We'll send you new ones.
Yeah, then they can kind of list it or something like that. That's really cool. That's because I can't tell you how many times I've been like walking down the fairway or whatever. I'll just be like talking to a buddy.
Cleaning your ball. And
like what does that mean? Like what does that have? Yeah. So, and obviously it doesn't hurt like the casing or anything with that, but I found that to just be so fascinating though, like watching those videos, cutting into those. Like it must be for you. You've probably done hundreds by now, and is that where you think?
I don't even know. Yeah.
Do you think a lot of like the social media growth has come from that? Like obviously, like I'm not the only one who's kind of gotten that rabbit hole. But do you get a lot of feedback on those? Like when you do that testing?
Yeah, I think that's definitely those are definitely some of my videos that perform the best, especially lately. Like everyone loves it because it's something that you don't get to see often, and I want to move into the realm where like I feel like if I were to do something similar with clubs, like people would be all over it because you don't usually get to see what's inside of a driver or inside of an iron or how those pieces work, and it's really just showing you like how each bit works. But what's awesome about the golf balls is they're soft. I can cut it open. It's urethane, it's Surlyn and rubber. Like I can easily cut it open. And I can't cut open a driver to show you exactly what's going on inside pretty easily. So it's definitely something that's helped me really grow and teach people exactly what what'll help them play their best.
Would you though? Would you like if you could get to the
Yeah,
idea of like
if I could do it, 100%.
yeah,
Yeah, I
because
would cut open irons, cut open drivers, just show you piece by piece. Because yeah, as a fitter, you get to see it, and sometimes you can see the graphics online and stuff, but you can't really see exactly what's going on. So like, I wish I still had it. On my other desk, I have like an old like someone came into the shop with Epic Flash, Callaway Epic Flash,
okay.
and the crown had cracked off of it. And they're like, look, like I don't want a replacement one, like I'm gonna get a new one. So we fit them for a new driver, and he gave me the old Epic Flash, and so the crown was popping off of it. So I pulled out the face because it was the first time they had done the AI face, the flash face in the back, and so I keep on my desk a little flash face because it's a reminder of like how much tech really does go into these.
Yeah, I'm kind of like now I'm looking at this like club at this
Yeah.
Strixon Z585. So this is the bottom half of my combo set when I was playing the 785s, and it kind of just makes you think like there's all like you can see just kind of like inside the back of it. There's it's not foam, but it's like a different material than kind of the outside. I would love to just like see a video where this is just snipped right in half,
Sliced in half.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
we can kind of see what's in there. That'd be really cool because, like you said, you can see photos of it, and a lot of the marketing from brands is they'll show you that, but it's different when I'm watching
You
one of
see
your
piece
videos.
together. Yeah.
Same thing with the golf ball. Like there's a photo of it on the box, but when you're kind of cutting it open, it sort of grips you, and you kind of hang in there for that, so you can see it, which is neat. I think you're onto something there. That could be a pretty expensive hobby though. Like
Yeah.
even like with the golf balls, like it could get expensive, but definitely if you're
I will say, yeah,
yeah.
it definitely drains my bank account, but in the best way. I mean, it's just so cool to actually be able to see how it's made. I wish I could do it with the club. I'm trying to figure out how to do it.
Especially when you enjoy it that much, it makes it a little easier spending that money.
Yeah, it's not that big of an issue for me. I'm like, oh, it's just a dozen. It's fine. I'll play with the other 11, and I'm good. Yeah.
Have you had a brand like reach out to you and say like we'd love you to kind of cut the ball open and present it on your page? Has that been something that you've done?
I've definitely had a few brands reach out. I mean, like if someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I want you to show it off," 100%, I'd love to do it. Like it's definitely something I've done before, and I'm always open to doing is because I think brands, they show off their clubs and they do it great, but there's a way that creators can kind of talk about different equipment that brands have to keep up their image, where creators can really talk about it and dive into it a little bit differently. And so that's kind of I love to talk about the balls because no one's paying me to say what I'm saying. I'm just talking about them. Unless the little thing says ad, but the majority of the time I'm just talking to you. Yeah.
I was also gonna say people like hearing it from other people too instead of company. Like
yeah,
it hits way harder hearing it from someone who's not involved with the company. So
yeah, no, 100%. And like I'm always gonna tell you exactly how it's made and exactly what it's doing. I get a lot of my research from the companies and how they're doing it, but you can really actually see it and see how how it's done, because I've cut open balls before and they've been off center, and then that's a whole other conversation of how that affects your game. And so just to be able to really to talk about it and to show you exactly what this ball does step by step, like I love doing it.
So when you if we can just I think we still got a couple minutes here with you, Katie. Okay.
No, yeah, you're good.
Okay, so when you put the ball in the
yeah,
so when you drop it in like the I don't know what it's called. I'm trying to see what it is right now. I got one going, but you drop it in you drop it in whatever it is, like that balances the ball and kind of spins it around, right? So is that just are you trying to find like a middle point of the golf ball when you're doing that? Like, is that just to show if the ball is balanced or not?
Pretty much. So that little machine will basically show me the center of gravity of the golf ball, right? So when you hit a ball and it goes and spins in air, it will wobble for a second, find its center, and then continue to spin like that. Physics.
Okay.
And so it'll continue to spin in a certain way, and if it's if your ball is off center, or your ball is something's off with the core, then the ball's gonna spin in a weird way. And so when I throw it in that little machine, it simulates, okay, I've just hit the ball, it's now spinning free in air.
Okay.
When it'll wobble for a minute and then get to that balance point. And so the line that I make on the ball is kind of the balance point of the ball, which is what I cut down. So it gives you the best plane of view for it. But if the ball was off center, it'll show me exactly where it's off center when I cut down that line.
Okay, so when you hit the ball, it kind of like squirrels or whatever. It'll start to spin this way.
Yeah, so the
Gotcha.
ball will rotate because you know how you get like backspin and stuff on the golf
Of course,
ball.
yeah.
You know, right? So it falls in kind of a similar pattern because it'll wobble for a second in the air, find itself, and then spin like that.
So with the ball with an off-center core, will it ever find its natural rotation?
So it'll kind of find a rotation. It'll be a little wonky, but that while finding the rotation, it can cause the ball to go a little right, little left, whatever.
Okay.
Depending on where it's balanced to.
Because I'm watching like right now, I got the Z-Star Divide up. That's like a really good visual one for people to see because it's obviously split right down the middle.
Right.
I played Strixon for the XV for a long time, so it kind of like that's one of the ones that stuck out to me is it's almost like right across the middle of it, right? It's where the divide line is. It kind of almost goes right across the middle. So
it was weird. It didn't come down the line where the color changed, which I thought
were you expecting that? Yeah.
So that's what a lot of people were gonna say it was because they're like, oh, do the divide, it'll come down right down the center, and if it did, that would cue to me this ball is made a little different because they're having to pop the two together, but it didn't. And so because it didn't, that told me, oh, this is a great ball. This is made amazingly, that they could split the color and still have it perfectly balanced, and that there's not going to be some weird crease in it. Because even when you see it cut open, you can see it's a very clean line, the crease. It's not at all off, which I was just like, wow, like props to Strixon for that one. That was awesome.
Yeah, that one was kind of neat to me. And then you sort of think like, though, if you knew where that line was in your ball, like every single ball is probably going to be different in the dozen, would you think?
Like, 100%. Yeah.
So
I think, because if it's not coming from the same batch and it's not stamped the same way, because I mean, if you watched videos of like how it's made videos for golf balls, or if you've seen like sometimes companies will post promos like where they show the ball being made and stamped and stuff, it's rolling down that little conveyor. It's not going to be identical each ball,
right?
And then they just get thrown in and packaged up. So every ball is going to be a little different out of a set.
Yeah, because I was thinking like it might be worth a few more yards if you knew exactly that that center
line,
point or that line, right? So and then
that's why I started checking them.
It was kind of the same thing with like that TaylorMade line with like that has like that I don't know what ball it is, but it's got that fat one. I remember
the stripe,
yeah. So it's kind of good to see. I feel like I have one of those. It looks like a mud ball when you hit it though. Like when you hit one of those things, I have like one with a red line on it. It looks like it's kind of it's kind of hard to when you actually like hit an iron shot with it. It just like it kind of messes with your mind a little bit, but it's I guess it works. The idea of line it up is kind of cool, but I found those to be pretty fascinating. That's when you and I first got chatting. I was like kind of like going through a whole rabbit hole on those, just going through the different balls and like checking out all the different ones. But I think being able to take that and translate that to golf clubs and all your background and stuff is really impressive. Are you
thank you.
Are you looking to like bring, just before we let you go, are you looking to bring like new materials to the golf space? Like it sounds like obviously you have an engineering background. You've talked about the different metals that are in that ball. I can't remember the name of it now, the Ativan ball, I think it is, or something like that. So are you looking to introduce something new to the golf space, or are you just trying to kind of get your feet wet with it and see where that goes?
I mean, my goal is to change the game and to make the game better. And so, I definitely am kind of coming in with something new, something different. And it definitely involves, I've experimented with different materials from clubs. I've experimented with different, a whole bunch of different things in the golf world. And so I told myself if I was coming into golf, I wanted to come in and I wanted to make the game better because, golf has given me such an amazing life and so many amazing opportunities and just has always been one of the things that I loved most and was my favorite thing to go out and do. And so coming into the golf world, I wanted to make something that would make other people feel that way. And so I when I came up with my design, I knew it needed to be something different, something that would help a lot of people and something that would bring a lot of new stuff into the golf world.
I love that. That's a really great response because I think there's so many things changing. I have a request. Can we, when we get these rollback golf balls out, can you cut a couple of these open and see what's going on inside these?
100%. Yeah.
Like I
100%.
don't understand what the difference is going to be internally, but with
They're just gonna put a little piece of lead right in the center of the court.
It's gotta be.
I don't even know. Yeah, I've done a bit of research on it, and like I can somewhat see where they're coming from with the rules change. I mean, golf has progressed so much, but at the same time, I totally understand it for the pro tour. I'm still trying to understand it a little bit more for the consumer.
Well, it's just like, how do we know, right? Like, how do we know?
Yeah. What's the
that
difference?
Justin Thomas is not hitting a different ball than Tony Finau? Like, how are we going to police that? How are we going to know? Like,
my buddy who's a fitter for TaylorMade gave me some. I'm not gonna say his name, but he, because I don't know if he'll get in trouble. But he said that they already have full balls in production and ready to go. Like they have, and they said they're still like it's not gonna change. Like amateurs they're still gonna make their normal balls, which I thought a lot of the companies would have been pissed and said, all right, we're just making this ball now. But apparently that's not the case. So
yeah, I think it's gonna have a little growing period. I'm not sure the rule will stick, but I think it's definitely going to have I mean, you see online on social media, all the manufacturers kind of fighting back against it. And so it'll be interesting to see.
I just don't think it'll matter. Like they say they're doing 5% or whatever. It's guys are still going to hit it so far. It won't even do anything.
Yeah. You telling me that
by the time it hits.
Sorry, go ahead, Katie. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I was just saying, by the time it hits, the amount of yardage gained from equipment, you're not even going to lose yardage. Yeah.
And you're telling me that Patrick Reed's not going to be pulling some old Pro V1X sleeves out of his bag or something like that. Some old juice balls. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Right. So there's always going to be like, I don't know, will there be like drama over speculation if somebody just starts hitting the ball further or something like that? It could be really just be based on equipment and stuff too, and it working better for their game or changing something. And now all of a sudden somebody's hitting the ball further. I don't know. It's a really weird topic that we haven't really discussed much yet. It's obviously just come out last week. So I think we got to get our hands on one of those somehow, like from the tour truck or whatever it is. If it's just going to be a professional golf and get you to cut one of those open and see if there's going to be any difference. I don't know.
No, 100%. The second they come out, I'm hitting up anyone I know on a tour truck being like, can you send me one? I want to compare. Like, it's stamped, whatever, same as the normal one. Like, okay, let's actually see inside if it's really different or not.
Jake's in there. Jake will swipe one for us. He's in those spots. He'll grab one for us and we'll get it sent down to you.
Love it.
Katie, this was awesome. Really appreciate your insight. Really appreciate what you're doing for the game. Awesome. Like this is actually a conversation where the golf game is changing because of what you're doing, which is really impressive.
I appreciate that.
Really looking forward to kind of seeing how this goes. Hopefully we can have you back on in the future as everything kind of progresses and you get more player testing out. And once you maybe drop your first line, maybe we can get you back on for a chat.
I'd love to, yeah.
All the links for Katie are below. Club Girl, Katie, I believe it is. And then your personal page, go check it out. Get in a rabbit hole like I've done. And then I'll grab the link and we'll drop the link for the player testing. So if anybody's interested,
perfect.
We're gonna have this one out in a couple of days. So if anybody's interested, maybe they can fill out that information and send it over to you. Maybe get some people rolling the putts.
Yes, definitely. We definitely need more testers. So please, anyone who wants to, just fill out the link.
Awesome, Katie. This was great. Enjoy
Thank you so
the
much,
holiday season and all the festivities that you're doing tonight. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, it should be good. You guys stay warm.
He's out in my ball in the course, so I tee up. I lose the ball and I re-up. I miss a fairway, I probably end up in the ocean or maybe the beach. And I'm on a par 5 and I'm finna go reach it. Second was blind, I ain't see it. Feel like it might be an albatross.